We have with us right now best-selling author, actor, producer, director. I'm just going to keep going. Golden Globe winning, Emmy nominated, SAG Award nominated, New York Times best-selling author, screenwriter, producer Chris Colfer.
Thank you for having me.
And congratulations, your new book, A Tale of Magic, which is for what age group? Do you? What's the technical?
Technically, I think it's for 8 to 12, but I know people of all ages who are reading it right now.
Including 54-year-olds. I love it.
35.
Oh.
Yeah.
And where are they?
So good. So this is a tale. If people don't know, you've sold your first series. The oh God, what was the Land of Stories?
Right. Yeah.
The first series, The Land of Stories, has sold 6 million.
Yeah,
I was trying to remember the
7,
number,
right.
and it made me forget the name of the series.
That's all right.
The Land of Stories sold 6 million copies. There were 6 books in it. It has been translated into 28 languages, released in over 35 countries.
Yeah.
So just a massive hit.
Huge. I mean, the language, I don't think I could name all those languages or all those countries, to be frank.
Do you speak all those languages?
Oh, God.
I think that's so impressive.
I'm struggling with English. So,
did you rewrite it in all those languages?
No, but I had this
So
little girl come to one of my book signings who said, I've read your book in 4 languages. And I was like, oh, which language is better? And she said, Hebrew.
What?
Wow,
Yeah.
I was going to say, I would be very curious about the translation.
Yeah.
Of like how they interpret in other countries.
Yes, yeah.
You know, because there's like allegory, there's other things.
Sarcasm
and themes
doesn't
and
quite
stuff.
register in other countries,
Yeah.
right? It's fascinating how that all works. Yeah.
I'll have to admit I have not read all 6 books in the Land of Stories.
That's okay.
But was
Neither have I.
totally charmed by I think bits of the second one and all of the first one, and they're not really for me, but just because.
Well, not with that attitude.
No, I know. I'll go back and read them. I promise.
All right.
But they were about these 2 twins who, like, they go into this magical realm populated by the characters from fairy tales that they've read, and it's just great.
Oh, thank you.
And a lot of the themes of tolerance and very culturally relevant themes are in that one. And in this new book, A Tale of Magic, I want you to set up what it is, but also, is this going to be a series?
Yes,
Is this the first in a series?
First in the series, yes. Yeah, so I think as of right now, I think it'll be a trilogy.
Okay.
But unlike The Land of Stories, like I'm not putting a cap on this one. So if later down the road I want to write a 4th or a 5th, I will.
So
yeah.
It's so impressive.
Oh, thank you. I mean, I'm so thrilled by
Chris has written 15 books.
I know, it's like, what?
It's crazy. I know, it's so obnoxious.
In a short amount of time. You get
a short amount of time.
Yeah.
And let's see, the first one.
Chris is actually 75 and looks amazing.
Thank you.
But even at that age.
He has 19 arms.
No, so young, and you've done all. It's really incredible.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm just a big nerd, and I'm a big introvert. So I'm very fortunate that I have this career.
I know writing's a great career for an introvert.
It is. Yeah, you can wear your pajamas every day, and you don't have to be around people. So I love it.
And also, sings like a badass.
Oh,
on
thank
top
you.
of everything else. So anyway, tell us what A Tale of Magic is about.
So A Tale of Magic is about a little girl named Bristol Evergreen. She's 14, and she lives in a different world, in a kingdom that is so oppressive, women are not legally allowed to read. And she loves to read more than anything, so it's a bit of a problem for her. So just to be around books, she gets a job at her local library working as a maid, so she can sneak books home at night. During her job, she finds a book in a secret section of the library about magic. And she reads a bit of it out loud and discovers that she has magical abilities. And fantasy ensues.
Yeah. It's really good.
Yeah.
But also, I want you to read the part where Bristol goes, she's in the library. It's late at night. I think it's late at night.
I think so, yeah, because she has the night shift, so that makes sense. Yeah.
So it's late at night, and she comes to a part of the library that is kind of dusty. She thinks maybe there are books in here that no one's ever read before.
Right.
And she spots an interesting leather-bound book up on a shelf and just give people a sense of the book.
Sure.
I just marked a passage right there,
cool.
which perhaps you're familiar with.
Yes, of course. I love that. I love this large print book.
Is
too.
there?
I wish I had this during the audiobooks. Yeah, that'd be great.
I'm totally switching to large print.
Yeah,
and
I
everything.
know.
It's so
Nice. Shout out to Molly, our producer.
It's a nice large print book.
Yeah.
So, is there any other setup I need to give?
No, I
there?
think that's good. Yeah. Okay. I'll start. Let's see. Bristol pulled on the book again with all her strength, but it didn't move. Her feet rose off the ladder as she used all her weight to try to pry it loose, but even that didn't help. No matter how hard she tried, the wooden book wouldn't part from the shelf. It must be nailed down. What kind of sick person would nail a book to a... Ah! Without warning, Bristol and the ladder were knocked to the floor by something large and heavy. When she looked up, Bristol discovered that the entire bookcase had swung away from the wall to reveal a long and dark hallway hidden behind it. She quickly realized the wooden book wasn't a book at all. It was a lever to a secret door. "Hello?" Bristol nervously called into the hallway. "Is someone there?" The only thing she heard back was her own voice, echoing back to her. "If anyone can hear me, I'm sorry about this," she said. "I was just cleaning the shelf and it opened. I wasn't expecting to find a door to wherever this creepy hall leads." Once again, there was no reply. Bristol assumed the hidden corridor was just as empty as the rest of the library and didn't see any harm in inspecting it. She retrieved a lantern and slowly walked down the hall to see where it led. At the end of the hallway, Bristol found a wide metal door with a plaque bolted on it. "Justices only." There you go.
And the justices are not.
They're not good news.
They're not good news.
No.
So the setup. There's actually another passage that I want you to read in a minute.
Oh, cool.
This
is a great advertising, so thank you.
But well, sure. We could just you come every day and read.
Sure, just read the book.
We're going to read the entire thing.
Yeah, great.
Just a little bit at a time.
Right.
Whenever Chris Colfer has time to come in and read it.
Right.
So Extreme Book Club. So the magic is outlawed.
Yes.
So and there are witches and there are fairies. And what's the difference in a witch and a fairy?
Oh gosh, well, it kind of leads to a surprise, but no, it's the difference between a witch and a fairy is fairies are born with goodness in their hearts, therefore can only conjure magic, and witches are born with darkness in their hearts and therefore can only conjure witchcraft. And that is just the belief that everyone believes. But as the story unfolds, the characters realize there is actually more to that than they've been told.
Ah. Yeah. So, but that's not really a spoiler. That's in the very first.
That's in the first. That's in the first. Yeah. That's in the prologue. Yeah.
And so, will you read the part where Bristol discovers something about herself?
Sure. Yeah. Of course.
It's right here.
Yeah. I'd love to.
Hold on. Okay.
That's great.
This you'll need to set up a little bit.
Okay.
Because no. You guys talk amongst yourselves.
Oh my gosh.
It's all good.
Well, I was actually curious, like the way you read, when you're done, do you actually read your chapters out loud to hear how they sound? Like
I do usually, yeah. That's usually how that's my final pass. I read it out loud to myself just to make sure, a young child
person
can
could read it.
Yeah. It's actually possible for someone to read it.
And how do you think about sort of incorporating things? Because obviously, like as a larger scale, like us as adults watching, I'm like, women can't read, like The Handmaid's Tale or like allegories for LGBTQ. How do you, in some ways you want to structure it so that it is a teaching tool for kids. You have this voice to do that, but also not speaking down to kids or dumbing it down, but obviously making allusions to understand like what's happening in modern society.
Yeah, well, kids are way smarter nowadays than I ever was when I was their age. So I just write my reading level, and then people think I'm writing for kids. It was interesting because this really should have been a very easy task for me because it was originally designed just to be a prequel to the Land of Stories series, and it was going to be just an easy thing that I could do and maybe collect a nice paycheck and great, wonderful. But when I gave the verbal commitment to my publisher to do the prequel, it was before the election. It was before a lot of crazy things had happened in this world. So by the time that I actually sat down to write it, I couldn't just do a fantasy book. I had to make it more. I had to write about things that made me feel like I was contributing some way and leading the world in a different direction, especially the next generation. This is the hardest book I've ever had to write because, like you said, everything is an allegory. It's an allegory for suppression. It's an allegory for acceptance, self-acceptance, and worldwide acceptance. And so it became a very daunting task. And there are times when I was writing it that I get so upset by what I was writing because it reminded me so much of something that we're experiencing now that I'd have to get up and walk away from my computer.
Yeah, and about how certain people are demonized by certain political leaders.
Absolutely, yeah.
Certain minorities, in this case, women, people who are magic, anybody who's
anyone
different.
who's different. Whatsoever. Yeah, right.
And it's also, I think, my favorite part of the book is how faith is used to manipulate people and control. Yeah. And
I wonder where I got that idea.
I know, right? But it's really good and smart, and it's a great way for it's a great story if you just want, a young person to read it. But it's also a great way for a young person to read it and then to talk with them about what that means.
Yeah. And for one of my favorite things is how many teachers use it in their classrooms to talk about bigger discussions. And one of my favorite things about the Land Story series, one of my favorite things I've been told is how many parents read it with their kids. And I think that's a huge responsibility when you're an author and you have that kind of effect on families. So I really wanted to write something where, the kids, I can't imagine how scared and confused kids are just from what they see on the news today. And I'm sure they have a lot of questions, and I'm sure a lot of parents have a hard time answering those questions. So I really wanted to write something where they could read it with their kids, and the kids would have a little bit better understanding what's going on in our world.
Right. And when you hear this on the news or see that headline,
it's just like what Bristol went through.
Yeah, it's just like the justices.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Those bad eggs.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Those guys. Yeah. Stripping rights left and right. Yeah.
You are listening to the Jess Cagle Show here with Julia Cunningham and best-selling author Chris Colfer, who you started writing books after Glee, or was it
right in the middle?
It was right in the middle.
Oh yeah, I wrote the first.
Because I remember you came into the offices of Entertainment Weekly at one point. When the very, very first book came out.
Yeah. And thank you for letting me do that back then.
Told us about it.
Yeah. No, I wrote the first Land Stories book, my first book. The majority of it was below the stage of the Glee World Concert Tour. That's where I wrote the most of it. Yeah, insane. I could really multitask when I was younger. I wish I still had that ability.
What made you want to take that? Was it? Did you just have this story inside of you that you wanted to get out? Had
Absolutely.
you always wanted to be a writer?
Absolutely. Ever since I was a kid, and I even started. I started writing the Land Stories series when I was a little kid. I was about 7 or 8, and
oh wow!
And I would it was a coping mechanism for me. It was escapism, and I would write. I wasn't a very good writer back then, obviously, because I was 7 or 8. But I would write out a chapter, and each chapter would be like a page or a couple paragraphs long, and I'd ride my bike to my grandma's house, and she'd edit it for me. So so the story's been with me forever, and also just the fear of that my acting career was not going to work out. I knew I needed something else to do. So
if this hit show doesn't lead to anything,
which sometimes it doesn't.
Sometimes it doesn't. I think you're fine. I think you're fine. Yeah. But it was interesting that you endured a lot of bullying when you were a kid. Mm-hmm. And I wonder if because the messages that you have in your books are so related to that. And I think that any kid who is bullied and reads this is going to have it's going to give them some kind of strength and hope.
Oh, I hope so. I hope so. It's called A Tale of Magic because magic it represents that thing inside all of us that is constantly oppressed by the world that we live in. So for me, magic represents being gay. In the very first chapter, you have a character that says magic isn't a choice. But magic, what magic represents for me could mean something different for whoever reads it. A little girl living in Egypt, her magic might be something different than mine, and so on and so forth for other kids around the world.
Yeah, I remember going and speaking to my old high school not long ago, and I was trying to figure out, what to say to them, and I said, I'm gonna talk to all the kids who, feel like they don't belong because I was one of you.
Yeah.
And the best way that I could articulate it to them was the thing about yourself that you might hate right now that makes you think you don't fit in is going to be give it a couple of years, because it may very well be the thing that you love the most about yourself.
Yeah,
very
absolutely.
soon.
Yeah.
And I felt like that, I just sort of remembered that sentiment as I was reading this.
Yeah.
So here is this will require a little bit of setup, but there Bristol is in the library, and she's stumbled across these various books. And one of the books is called The Truth About Magic.
Truth About Magic.
And it actually touches on fairies and witches. But she's reading. What's so great about the book is also you include passages from the books within the books.
Oh, right. Yeah. So where do you want me to start from this one? Just this one here?
Yeah.
All right. So in this book, she's reading a book about the history of magic and how magic has been covered up for centuries, and it's all a big conspiracy against the magical community.
Yeah, she has uncovered the truth.
Yeah. Let's see here. Okay, so the author, whose name is Madame Weatherbury, says it may seem complicated to differentiate a fairy from a witch, but there is a simple test that members of the magical community have used for centuries. By reading a passage of ancient texts aloud, a questioning fairy or witch can easily determine where they stand. Do you want to continue?
Yeah.
Okay. Well. Oh gosh. Okay. So
it gets really good.
Oh, cool. Okay,
unless you don't want to.
No. It's
you
great.
Don't have
Great.
to.
Cool. All right. So So then the passage is Akun, Aknun, Akella, Inamen, Telmun, Telmon, Takala, Aknamen. I made that up, obviously, and that's why
I know. That's why I wanted
was
you to read
clearly drunk when I wrote that. Bristol found the phase. Bristol found the phase so amusing. She read it out loud just to hear what it sounded like. Akun, Aknun, Akella, Inamen, Telmun, Talmun, Aktella, Aknamen. She pronounced with a laugh. Did something, and then it goes back to the book. Did something macabre manifest nearby? Were you unexpectedly hit by a storm of locusts or a plague of fleas? Was your skin suddenly covered in blisters or blemishes? If there are no visible changes to your body or immediate surroundings, then congratulations, you are not a witch. Now, by reading the next passage aloud, you can determine whether you are a fairy. Elsoon, Elknoon, Akella, Inamen, Delmoon, Dalmoon, Aktella, Aknamen. Bristol knew reading the second passage would have as little effect on her as the first, but she enjoyed playing along with the author. It wasn't every day that she took a test to determine whether she had magical capabilities. Elsoon, Elknoon, Akella, Inamen, Delmoon, Dalmoon, Aktella, Aknamen, she read aloud. And it goes back to the book. Did something beautiful appear? Are rubies and diamonds raining from the sky? Has your clothing changed into something much more stylish than before? If so, then congratulations, you're a fairy. If reading that text resulted in no physical changes to you or your surroundings, then it is safe to assume that you do not have magic coursing through your veins. Although you are not part of the magical community, I hope you will still support our efforts to find acceptance and... Suddenly, Bristol was distracted by an unexpected smell. As if someone had lit a scented candle, the small room was consumed with the pleasant aromas of lavender, jasmine, and roses, among other fragrances. Out of the corner of her eye, she saw something moving and jerked her head in its direction. To her absolute amazement, hundreds upon hundreds of flowers had begun growing out of the walls around her.
Fairy.
Oh, so she's a fairy.
She's definitely a fairy.
Anyway, Chris, thank you. Thank you for Bedtime Stories with Chris Colfer here on the Jess Cagle Show.
And for more of that, please check out my audiobook.
Yes, check out the audiobook. That was just a little taste.
For road trips.
Anyway, it's so good, Chris.
Oh, thank you.
And so happy for all the success you've had.
Oh, thanks so much. Thanks for having me.
Just incredible.